Hello guys and welcome back to I'm a Celeb Catch Up, and today we've got to talk about Saturday night's episode. Tony took part in a trial, there was some wars over the food, and there was some interesting conversation surrounding different topics. Apologies that I was away this weekend, so this episode has been uploaded on the Monday. You're going to get 2 episodes tomorrow, so that will be Sunday nights with the first eviction from camp, and then the Monday night, which is technically tonight's and hasn't been aired yet, tomorrow as well. So hopefully you guys will tune in for both of those. But yep, like I said, thank you guys for the support on the videos. It's been great. You guys have been really enjoying it, so make sure you keep up that support. But yeah, thank you guys very, very much for watching, and let's get straight into the video. So it was breakfast time, and that meant that Josie and Tony had to cook the camp breakfast, and Fred was not letting them get away with it as easily as I thought he would. It was a little bit uncomfortable to watch because he was very sort of like, oh, you got to do it this way. Oh, you got to do it this way. Oh, you got to do it this way. Like, oh, try this, try this. Oh, like, check on the rice, check on the rice. It's starting to get a bit grating and a bit uncomfortable to watch because, like, Josie and Tony are just doing their best. They're not doing anything wrong. They're not doing anything bad. They're just trying to cook for the camp. They're just trying to provide. It's not their fault that you've been a bit of a dick at times and Nella wanted to punish you by putting you on pot washing duty. Do you know what I mean? So, like, just let them get on with it. Stop sitting there and micromanaging and backseat cooking. Like, yes, you are a chef, fair enough, but you can't always be the camp chef. You have been since we got here, fair enough, but now, no more. The next thing that was really interesting was Danielle was tickling Sam's ear with a like a stick or something whilst he was asleep, and he woke up thinking there was bugs crawling on him. That was hilarious. That was so funny. And when he realised that Danielle had done it, oh my god, it was so funny. And then yeah, it was just a lot of my notes were just everyone seems to be pissing Fred off because they like Josie's food. So do you know what? Absolutely fair and valid. Fred, sort yourself out, mate. You're not doing anyone any good like this. Come on, sort yourself out, mate. Come on. Okay, it's time to talk about the bushtucker trial. And today we had the trial Eaten Alive. I gotta say, this was a very, very entertaining trial, and it just reinforces the fact that I think Tony is one of the most entertaining people in camp. When he came in, did not expect it, but I think he's just got such a sort of sarcastic wit about him where, like, there was a recurring joke throughout the trial where he'd grab a star and they'd go, oh, don't pull on it because you'll tighten the knots, and he'd go, I know. And it was just that same thing, and then he just stopped replying because Ant and Dec like to take the piss out of people while they do the trials. They do, because it's funny and it is entertaining. But Tony was having none of it. He was like basically piss off. It was he is very, very highly entertaining, and I think he was the perfect choice for this task because obviously you're climbing into a giant snake. There's confined spaces. It's 2 of his worst nightmares realized all at once. So yeah, I feel like he did do a very, very good job. He got into the first room, which was like slime and gunk, and was it like rotten fruit as well? I feel like it was. And he only managed to find 1 out of the 2 stars in there. So immediately I was like, oh no, here we go. He's not going to do very well in this trial because he's already forfeited 1 of the stars because he can't find it. And then he moved on into like the intestines, and then into like the stomach, and then the liver, and etc, etc, etc. And I gotta say, each room being themed like that was very entertaining. It was very fun, and it did bring back a little bit of sort of like creativity to the show, because I was like, oh, they've done this kind of thing before, but like this is still really cool and imaginative, and I'm really, really enjoying watching this trial. I think what would have made it even more entertaining is if there had been sort of more bugs and critters and they hadn't have put like 2 stars in each room. I feel like there needed to be more rooms, maybe like 7 rooms rather than just 5, because it felt like he was kind of breezing through some sections without actually having to do much. I also feel like they should have mixed it up with how they could have collected the stars. Just like undoing some knots isn't very interesting, but like maybe getting them to do the magnet would have been quite cool. Getting him to like push it up some grates would have been quite fun. I don't know. There's different things that you could do to make it very, very interesting. But yeah, he performed exceptionally well. He ended the trial with 9 out of 10 stars, which you gotta hand it to him. He did do incredibly, incredibly well. And I just think that people underestimate him, but also he underestimates himself, because it is tricky. The bushtucker trials are never easy. They are like notoriously very, very hard to do, because you're in an enclosed space, or you're in with critters and horrible things that you wouldn't necessarily come across in a real life situation. But this is like absurdism to the point of like, what the fuck is going on? Like climbing into a giant snake and being eaten whole and having to go for its digestive system and then being pooed out its backside. Yeah, that sounds quite crazy, but it works really, really well as a trial, and it's very, very entertaining as well. So you gotta hand it to them. They absolutely smashed it. Yeah, Tony did really well. I thought he was really good. And he started chucking the stars at Ant and Dec as well, when he was counting them out. And they were like, oh, when he was chucking them close, because they obviously had like guts and grimes and horrible things on them. So yeah, Tony's got a good banter with them as well. I think they appreciate the fact that they can take the piss out of him and he'll take the piss right back. Because some people don't appreciate it, and I feel like he doesn't appreciate it, but he also gives it back as well. So like they know that they can take the piss. So yeah, good trial overall. Was very, very entertained, and yeah, I haven't really got much else to say about it other than he did really, really well, and everyone was really impressed when he came back to camp with 9 stars, especially because the previous 2 days they'd had 4, and then they had 6, and then I'm pretty sure the day before that they only had 5. So you know what? This is the highest amount of stars they've had in a long, long time. So gotta hand it to the man. He did very, very well. So there were 2 little things that I wanted to talk about before we get onto the Dingo Dollar Challenge. The first one was everyone was kind of sunbathing and singing, apart from Nigel. Nigel looked like he was pissed off. And Nella was up in the van, but she was still kind of singing along a little bit. They were singing, I can't remember what the song's called. It's by, or I know Frankie Valli has done a version of it, but it's like, I love you, baby, and if it's quite alright. That one. It's quite a good song. And it was a row one for them to start singing. I gotta say, we've had a lot of JLS on this series, so I feel like it was time for a little mix up, and I think Frankie Valli was the perfect alternative, if I'm being honest. But then the next part of the conversation, Nigel was talking about stuff like I don't even know how the conversation started. I think he was talking about like how much the like MPs and House of Lords people get paid, and he was saying like they get paid like 300 a day just for turning up, which is ludicrous if you think about it. That's crazy. And he was like, oh, I had to live on 300 a day when I was like the European whatever, because he worked for like the European something or other, I don't know, in Brussels, I think. But like, yeah, it wasn't a very interesting conversation. But he also did talk about how dirt cheap the food was in the sort of canteens at the House of Commons, which is crazy because you'd think they're getting paid a lot of money, they'd want to rinse them a little bit, but like, no, apparently not. I mean, Ant and Dec said apparently toast costs 5p in the sort of canteen, which I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that's crazy. That's wild, because toast in any other establishment is at least £2-3. So like, I don't know what's happening there. Nick was also sort of in the sort of confessionals being like, I have to take that with a pinch of salt, purely because it's Nigel telling it, and like he's saying it from his point of view. Apparently Nick's been to the House of Lords. I don't know why, but he has. So yeah, interesting conversations, but I gotta be honest, I am bored shitless of Nigel's stories, because they all sort of boil down to sort of the same kind of like, yeah, I have no time for the man, because every conversation he has, it feels like it's been thoroughly thought out. Like, oh, I'm going to bring up this topic, or if someone brings up this question, I have a perfect example. And I feel like that's exactly how a politician should work. There's been some news reports over the weekend that Ant and Dec have sort of begged ITV producers to not hire any more politicians for the show. And I completely agree. I don't think politicians are celebrities, first of all, unless they're retired and they're wanting to branch out into other mediums such as TV and things like that. Fair enough, I can get behind that. Like when oh, what's her face back in the day? I can't remember. I can picture her face, but she had retired and she went on I'm a Celeb. That's fine. But like Matt Hancock has not retired from politics, but obviously he's wanting to branch out into TV. So again, I can understand that, but Nigel is very much still involved in politics, very much so. He might not be a sitting MP, but that doesn't mean he doesn't plan to run again in the future. He says he wants to be the next Tory sort of leader, but I don't think you should have people who are still wanting to pursue a political career be on the show, because that's ridiculous. You can't... I don't think politics and entertainment mix very well, and that's why this series has been very heavily sort of criticised, is because there is a massive focus on the politics side of it, and it's just not interesting to watch. So do with that what you will, but I'm not impressed, I gotta say. So it's time for the Dingo Dollar Challenge, and today we have the iconic duo of Frankie and Josie. And this is the second Dingo Dollar Challenge for both of them. And I often think that the people who are getting the least amount of screen time often get put in the Dingo Dollar Challenge. Like, we've seen it with Nick and Frankie. We've seen it with Nick and Josie. We've seen Danielle and Fred do it. We haven't seen Nigel do it. We haven't seen Nella do it. We haven't seen... Oh, we've seen Sam and Tony do it. But then the entire camp was kind of involved in it. So, like, I don't really count that one. But, like, it's interesting how Frankie, this is his second one in such a short amount of time. Like, Josie did the very, very first one back on, like, day 2. And then it's now day 14-ish, maybe 15. And she's doing her second one. Frankie's just boring, let's be honest. Like, oh, yeah, it's tough. Like, there's just no interesting moments that I can remember from him in the jungle so far, which really sucks. And is a shame. But anyway, back to what we were saying. The Dingo Dollar Challenge was actually very entertaining. It was a mix between a puzzle and a little bit of a time trial. One of them had to crawl into a Wendy house, do a Jack in the Box, like wind it up. Then there would be a pattern on the Jack in the Box's stomach that the person outside then had to move the boxes onto the different poles to match the corresponding colours. Now, I thought, well, surely they can just take them off and put them back on. No. When you take one off, it has to go onto another block, which made it infinitely more difficult. It's like the tower challenge where you have to move a pyramid from one side to the other. You've got 3 holes, except this one had 4. It looked tricky, I gotta say. It would have taken me a second to sort of work out a strategy for this. Bless Josie, had no idea what she was doing at first, but managed to get it. Then Josie went in, almost got stuck in the bloody door, because the Wendy houses were small. I don't think I'd have fit in there. Frankie did, but that's because he's tiny. And I gotta say, Josie did quite well at communicating, and then obviously Frankie did the last one, and I gotta say they worked really, really well as a team, and it was actually quite entertaining to watch. The music was quite entertaining as well, I thought. It was kind of whimsical and made it a lot more exciting to watch. But they also had me really worried about the time. They kept on being like, oh, the time's ticking down, but then they had like loads of time left when they finished, so I don't know what they were worried about. So we headed over to Kiosk Keith, and is it Kiosk Keith or Kiosk Kev? I think it's Kiosk Kev now. Deals on Wheels. And the deal was crumpets and butter, which I gotta say is the best one they've had so far. That butter, you could stretch that. You could stretch that so far, because they gave them a slab of butter. Oh, 5 crumpets each. The question was, which of these things has not happened to Frankie? The first one was, he got, let me look. He got kicked in the shins by Queen Elizabeth's racing manager. Not sure what that's about. he accidentally broke royal protocol when he kissed Camilla on the cheek. Sounds like something Frankie would do, to be honest. And then the last one was he turned up to Charles's 75th birthday party as a pantomime horse or something like that, which they immediately ruled as false because apparently the 75th birthday party was very recent, and if that had happened, they would have heard about it in the papers or something. So I think they sussed that one out quite quickly, and they actually did quite well. So they all got the crumpets and butter, and I gotta hand it to them. They did exceptionally well getting that. So yeah, very, very well done. And then dinner came along, and they got an eel. Josie looked petrified, and of course Fred was backseat cooking from the get-go. She was like, oh, I want to pan fry it and then make it into a risotto. And Fred was like, I wouldn't do that. I would do this. And she was like, fuck you. I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it. I want to eat this. And I was like, you know what? Go you, Josie. And then Fred was just like bitching and moaning the entire time. I was like, mate, just let her get on with it. Oh, you've gone from national treasure to like one of the most annoying people in the camp. Oh, it's tough to watch at times. It really is. It really is tough to watch because I just think you're being quite spiteful at times. I won't lie. You're not even trying to get on board with it. Just pipe down, pot wash, please, for the love of God. Oh my goodness. But guys, that is all we have time for today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. A little bit on the shorter side this episode, but it was a shorter episode. So thank you guys very, very much for watching. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for a double bill of I'm a Celeb episodes. We're catching up on Sundays and then going to be catching up on tonight's episode as well. So thank you guys very, very much for watching. And I'll see you guys later. Keep on ranting. Bye now.